Welcome everybody to our webinar. I'm Thiago Costa, and we're going to be talking about building. We're going to walk you through an agent, building it from scratch. Paul is going to walk us through the use cases that he has built for his project. And the goal here is so that you learn about AI, you learn about how to build these types of agents, how to deploy them, and then you learn from our experience of launching this in a job. So welcome to our webinar. Datagrid is a company that builds AI agents. As you are registered to the webinar, you probably know a bunch about it. I won't be boring you with what we do too much, and we jump into the making. So I want to introduce Paul Hedgepath, Director of Virtual Design and Construction at MJ Harris. So Paul, take the floor.
Thank you. So just a little bit of background about myself. I've got 25 years of experience in the industry, in the architecture and construction industry. I've been the construction tech lead for MJ Harris for 14 years. Prior to that, I was also the Southeast Regional lead for J. Dunn Construction, and then I also helped start up with a couple other guys, construction technology at Holder Construction, starting back in 2005. Worked on over 100 projects over the past 20 years for general contractors, and then 5 years prior to that, I worked for architects. The projects that I've worked on have ranged between 3 million all the way up to $1.4 billion. I've worked on the international terminal at Hartselle International back in 2010. And that was a pretty large one at 1.4 billion. For MJ Harris, we specialize in healthcare. I would say 80% of our work is healthcare. We do a lot of replacement hospitals, rehab facilities. We also do higher education, data centers, sports arenas, all kind of stuff. We have offices in Birmingham, Alabama, Nashville, as well as Phoenix, and we work all over the country. So yeah, just a little background about myself, and glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. My name is Thiago da Costa. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Datagrid. I've been building the company since 2020. We started off with a data layer in construction, a specialized data engine essentially for aggregating construction data. And in 2023, beginning of 2024, we launched this agentic platform on top of all the data. So we got really good at data first, and then we built out all the AI piece because there's no good AI without good data. So that's our quick story. My previous experience was at Autodesk. I built a mechanical engineering design platform that was acquired by Autodesk. It became a tool called Fusion 360. And from then, I pivoted into the construction space to first within the acquisition of PlanGrid and then Building Connected, and then with my own company. The goal that we have here at Datagrid is just really allow people to leverage their experience, their knowledge, and do less of the sort of repetitive, boring work. So we have a construction-specific data layer for AI and agentic layer. So this is a domain-specific engine that essentially aggregates data and does that for any type of data you are working with, including drawings, including photos, and any kind of information you have in a job, videos, audio. So it's a multimodal agentic system that essentially gives you the ability to launch these agents. And today we're going to be talking about three different agents that we think are really useful. And we'll cover them in that order: the deep search agent, the scope agent, and we'll talk a little bit about manpower logs. So there are three types of agents. We build the foundation today, and then you can deploy any of them essentially using your data. Any comments on this part here, Paul, or should I just keep moving?
Yeah, you keep on going. I think the ability, I mean, just looking at the photos there and the photo analysis and that kind of stuff is really great in terms of, I mean, we take photos all the time out on the job, and we're taking photos today on just because I was out here on the progress of the mechanical systems, and being able to dump that and connect it directly through our management system, which is Procore, and analyze things and like you see things here, and it's just, it can tell you what's going on, tell you the status, and really kind of dive down into the thousands and thousands of photos that we take throughout the job.
Another part of our system is the agentic piece where the agent actually performs tasks like creating an RFI or actually creating a manpower log. These are all things that we can cover in a different webinar. So today we're going to focus on just the document piece and how what kinds of tasks can be performed with these documents. But there's a full suite of actions that our agent performs. We are really focused around executing these actions across, all these tools. So today we're going to focus on for all the use cases we do. I think there's a super interesting one with schedule analysis that Paul has been building out, so he can comment on that. But we were going to focus on the deep document search and the scope search, the scope check, and we'll cross over into the manpower agent, manpower logs agent, to just demonstrate how that can work. But the goal is to build an agent from scratch today. So that's what we're going to spend most of our time doing. But Paul, do you want to comment on like what is really document search? Why would you use document search and scope check? And then we can talk a little bit about analysis.
The thing with all the information that we have to process on these jobs every day, and we don't want to spend all of our time looking for information. So the less time we spend trying to search for something and find an answer, the more time that we can add to the quality of the project and do the things that all the experts that we have working for MJ Harris are able to do in their expertise, whether they're in the field or management or those types of things. Anytime we're having to find something, that's taken away from that expertise, and it just makes our days longer and harder, and it's just unnecessary. So it's taking that shortcut to the info we need so we can get the answer we want and just keep on building.
And can you tell us a little bit of like what types of questions like are we looking to answer with these types of agents?
This one right here, talking about an air handler unit, right? So just being able to type this in and find the size and confirm that this is what it is. So this is pulling from the submittal, and this gives you a confirmation. Now, say this air handler changes. A lot of people on the phone have probably had that happen, and when that change happens, it impacts lots of things, right? You have openings, you have different scenarios of things that connect to it that are all going to be impacted. So the ability to have an agent that can find this information quickly, and then even when you have a change, go back and check it all, compare it to other things, and give you an answer to where you can make decisions of things that may be happening in the field. Like right now, we got stuff going on, and we've had some design changes that have impacted things that are being installed right now. And being able to see that impact, find that issue, just like an ASU or anything, instantly, to where you can get that information back to the guys putting the stuff in is huge. So, so this is a perfect example, and there's hundreds of examples of things that happen on a job that are just dynamic, and being able to search and find that stuff has been incredibly valuable.
Awesome. We'll walk through also the deployment of these agents, and we'll build one of them from scratch. So we're just walking you through the final result here as we launch an agent. The second one here is scope check. We can talk a little bit about this one and how it can be used. I mean, the same context of air handling units. We just kept the same example here. But yeah, let's walk us through like a little bit of like how, what kind of work you have to do today when checking for scope, like from specs to submittals and the stuff that people are sending to the project. How that work can be done more easily using AI, and then a couple examples here that you could cover for us.
Yeah. So the ability, I mean, as we're getting submittals in, buildings are made up of hundreds or thousands of things, and they all have associated submittal information that goes with it. So part of our job, a lot of assistant project managers on our projects do this, is that they're just processing submittals, checking those submittals, and making sure that it's right before we push that on to the architect for final approval and back. So the ability to get a first check to really, and you can see here with the specification requirement checklist right here, the ability to run that through and just get that first look and to see the critical items that we need to pay attention to first saves us time. And yeah, we're still going through our process, but it's cut in half, if not more, by using this as an assistant, what we're already doing to catch those things. We want to make sure that we catch everything. And if there's something missing, that we're pushing that back to our trade partners to make sure we get it corrected before we push it on and put all that burden on our design team for approval, right? And some things get missed, right? So we want to make sure that nothing is missed, because if something's not lining up with our contract documents and our specs and drawings and everything that we are contracted to do, and then we end up ordering something that's wrong, and then it ends up getting out here, and then we find out at the 11th hour that it's something that we don't need, then that's an issue. So again, it's just adding quality. It's enhancing what our guys are already doing and just making us better builders in general. So this checklist and this first check has been huge for us. And then the ability to kind of go through the specs and look at each category in terms of the things that that submittal is looking for, and really analyze it. And we can customize that as well to the things that we know we need to look for to have that flexibility to make it really an agent for us as well.
And can you talk a little bit about like, how many times people have to check scope, and then also comment on, who should make sure that the information is right? Is it the human or the AI? And then how should the AI be used in that context? Again, like the whole debate around, is AI a tool or should it actually be doing my job?
The human is going to be the one ensuring that the information is right. And I would say the AI is a tool, just like a management system would be a tool or anything else that we do. I mean, it could be, you could take it all the way down to the crane that's out there right now. It's a tool to put steel up, right? And AI should be viewed the same way. It's just making us better builders and adding quality to us. But in the end, it's up to us to make sure that this stuff is right. And there's no replacing us. This is all just a tool to make us better.
Awesome. And then the last one here is manpower. Like this is a completely new use case we've been developing. So yeah, you can comment on this one. We're trying to cross photos from the job and photos and reports with the manpower logs to provide a full context on the log. But yeah, who do you be using this? And then how would they be applying it and resolving some of their work in this way?
Yeah, so every day we're filling out our daily reports and we're figuring out who's out there on site, right? We're also getting those from our trades and ensuring that they got the right kind of crews out there and the manpower we need to finish the job. So what this is doing is it's taking all that data from these things that we're already doing and it's enhancing that. It's bringing all that data in. It's giving us a analysis of our manpower, and then it's taking the photos that we're taking on the same day and it's marrying that, right? So it gives you a relation in terms of the guys you have on the job and what's really going on in the field. Because in the end, we're a visual industry, right? I mean, we got to understand the workers, but we also have to understand what's being installed every day. And this really marries those two and tells you that. So it's great that you can build out agents that combine. You think about daily logs and you think about photos, and a lot of people will kind of separate those two things sometimes because it's, you almost want to say, oh yeah, I'll do my 360 photos, or I do, using drone deploy ground or whatever I'm doing over here, and then I'm also doing manpower. But it's bringing that together and it's creating something that's adding value to the project. So
Great. And then I think we'll cover now just the deployment of this. There's a few ways you have deployed it. So maybe just talk us through your way to deploy to the field versus in the office and how that's working.
yeah, so we have Datagrid. We have Datagrid online. You can log in. Uh, it's very important that we have access directory, right, as far as rights, as far as who can access what type of agent. And then one thing you can do specifically with Data Grid is you can assign out agents for people and have specific knowledge associated with that agent. And then there's certain agents that you can assign phone numbers to where it can act as a contact in your phone and text. So I've got superintendents that text me most of the day, right? Asking about things, whether it's building information modeling or other construction tech on the job. So it's very natural for them to do that. Now that you can text an AI and ask it something and it responds back just like anybody else would and gives you information, but not only in that response, it tells you where it got that information from and it'll even link you to that information. So again, going back to the human element, right? We're still doing our jobs. We're still the experts, and this is just an assistant that's also showing us where it got that stuff. Um, this particular one right here, this is a waterproofing question. So on a job, we've got a job, this $140 million higher ed job. We got waterproofing going around a concrete wall, and the waterproofer's just going, right? Installing the stuff. Well, there needs to be tape on that corner, but we want to make sure that we're clear on the requirement for that tape that should be there prior to the waterproofing being applied. So there's two different options. You're in the field, you got all these different things going on, you got people asking you questions as a superintendent, you're running a lot of work and a lot of people. You want to get a question answered, why not just text the AI and it gives you the answer? It shows you where it got the answer, and then you can move on, right? You can give direction to whoever needs direction and you continue on. The alternative to that is walking across the job site, pretty big job, right? And walking in the trailer and then asking a PM or assistant PM. First of all, you're stopping them from what they were doing. They're probably doing something important. Maybe they're using the AI to check the submittals, right? So it's helping them out, but they're doing something different. And then so they stop and then they go and they have to check for this. They have to find that submittal. They have to find that cut sheet. They have to verify. And before you know it, 30 minutes has gone by, 40 minutes has gone by. And imagine multiplying that times however many dozens of things come up during a day. So this streamlines that process. It brings it technology to the field where it belongs, but it makes it accessible and it makes it not so foreign. Like when you think about AI, you think, oh man, this is, it's kind of almost like science fiction to some of our experts out in the field. And it's not, it's just asking a question. It's on your cell phone, move on with your day. So it's been extremely valuable. And I think this is almost one of the highest points of AI is really letting people that are doing the work, our highest valued employees, have this knowledge instantly. So it's really been good.
And knowledge is power. So now we're going to jump. Thank you, Paul. This was great. Now we're going to jump into the agent building. And just to be clear, we got to walk you through building the agent from scratch. There's a template library in a product that you can use to launch the agents. That's generally how Paul would start. He launched a few agents there, and then we customized it. And we will give you the full agent setup in the end of the webinar here, so you can just take it home and modify it. Um, and the whole goal here is like really learn how to leverage AI so you understand the limitations and the possibilities, so you're not caught off guard, with the advent of AI. AI is going to continue to change, is going to continue to evolve, and I think it's better for everybody to learn how to use this technology and learn the power of it without being constrained by the tools you're using, because the tools are going to continue to change. So, if anything, like hopefully this teaches you a little bit of how AI works and how you can deploy in your projects. So let's get started. So first of all, we talked about the result, and then this is an example. I just asked this question about air handling units on the phone. I text the phone number, and I was able to get a response from that. I get the actual specification section. I get the actual result here. This is really straightforward. Once you get the agent set up, you can go and decide how to do the deployment. So just want to get that out of the way. It's just the phone number of the agent, and you can easily go and configure it in the configuration of the agent over here. I have this system here already has this team space, which is how we deploy agents. Already has 5 agents that are here. And these are agents we have already set up. And as you click on an agent, you would see the types of responses that the agent is able to produce. So in this case here, I asked for a breakdown of the last 4 weeks of work. This agent went in and he did 7 different steps to figure that out. It literally went to reason about it and came back with a report on the manpower and how many hours people have been working, how many workers have been on the site, the actual breakdown of the work on that week, and so on and so forth. This is very easy to launch and deploy. The agent will cite. You can export these things as PDFs. It's very simple. The deep search one is the first one we're going to set up. This is super simple, and it is the type of agent when you go and you ask a question like, what are the specs for the air handling unit 10? It will go and look into that document to produce that answer. And the goal here is to be quick and just provide a real quick answer either on the phone or on the computer, and get to the information that you want. Even if you have like inaccuracies in your data or whatever, you want to get like all the information that's available to you so you can actually work through it. So let's set up an agent like this. And just first of all is the data set that's going to be feeding these agents. In the datasets folder here that I created, I already imported the data sets. And just so you know, like for example, the submittals data set is for this project, it's around, is being syncing every day. And this is around 20 gigabytes of data or 30 gigabytes of data for just the submittals piece. Actually 22 gigabytes. And this is every PDF, everything that was submitted. It's all here and available. And the agent has already learned all this information. But just if you're getting started with AI, the first thing is like getting the data in. In our system, this is super simple. You go through the connection of the applications here, and there's a library of apps you can connect to and then get started. We would choose the application such as Procore. We would select our login here. We're just essentially logging in into the platform. And then once we log in into the platform, the data shows up as a table, just like what we did here. Same thing for manpower logs, for specs, photos, any data you want, you just pick the connector and you pick the source of data, and it will come in and the AI will process and then learn that data structure and automatically prepare it. So when we ask that question about manpower logs, this is where the data is coming from. So it's just straightforward setup. I don't remember if this was your connections that when on your project, Paul, if you set up the connections, I think you did, right? Do the logins on Procore. Um,
Hmm.
and it's a collaborative system, so like the team went in and just adjusted it a little bit, but there was no actual data setup. It was just connecting the data, if I
Right.
remember.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want to customize the data in any way, anybody that's building an agent, you can customize into that view of data sets. For Paul's deployment, the way he did it is he invited users that were agent only. So the users that are going to be using our agents, they don't have to know about how the data is being fed on the agent, and they only get access to the data that they actually need access to. So
Hmm.
this invitation system here limits who has access to the AI, and it's easy for them to just go and have a chat, like what we just did here with the search agent. Um, Now, creating an agent, let's go through that process, which I think is the most interesting one in this case. There's a marketplace here of agents. And this marketplace, you basically have templates of use cases that are already somewhat customized to something that you want to do in the project. Today we're talking about deep search, but there's so many ideas and things you could do with AI. So we generally capture those in this template library. To get started with the document agent, you just go through the document search agent creation here. This is going to give you some examples of what this agent is going to be able to do. And we'll just create this agent right now, and as a blank new agent. It's not going to have any real um, capability, I would say, other than is connected to the data. So if we go in here and we say, what data can you access? Just as an example, this agent is going to go do that work to actually access the data that's available. But you can imagine that right now, if I start playing with the agent like this, I'm going to be pretty far from like having a production agent. So if you go step by step through this, the first thing is figuring out what the data that you want to have access to. So I clearly don't want to have access to the schedule if I'm only going to be doing submittals and specs. And this is an example here where I'm just selecting these two sources of data that are already available to the agent. And the next thing to think about is how we want this agent to behave. So the behavior of an agent is defined by the instructions that are given to the agent that are right here. These are super simple instructions that are already in place. We're going to see how these are going to behave, but I want to teach you one more trick, which is to configure the actual model. So there's two models we offer. We offer a reasoning model that is a multi-step reasoning model that can do actions and a number of things, and we offer a flash model that is more it's still precise, but is more focused on document types of workflows. So now, we had asked a question about data access. The agent was going to reason and do all this other stuff. Now, very quickly you can see with this other model, the agent is just faster at responding and is focused on the task that we want. The other thing is access to actual large language models. So we try to bring all the latest large language models. Actually, Gemini 2.5 Flash was launched in 8 days ago. So they're already available in the platform. So you're never going to be behind with LLMs. if you're using Datagrid, because we want to be using the bleeding edge AI, and we have integrated all the AI models we can for all the different tasks we perform. But this is super critical to know because these things are changing so fast. So you have to be using a system where you can actually configure your LLM. The other thing that happened here is you see the high, the way that it happened. You generally don't want to just have like a generic welcome. And this is defined by this prompt down here, the conversation starter prompt. So I would just say, provide me with 5 questions the user can ask you. And we'll save this and we'll hit the preview button just to see how this behaves. The whole point is if somebody sends hi to the agent over text, you can configure how that response is going to happen. So the agent is actually planning how to respond. So it's now saying these are the 5 questions you could ask. Can you provide the details about the particular specification, such as the engine generator, specification 2.6 or whatnot? Which contractor is responsible for a given submittal? And what is the receive date? So these are questions that are coming from our data, right? So we already configured the data, and now we're configuring how the agent should be thinking about it. And actually, engine generators specification, this is actually in our data set. That's why it was quoted in here by the agent. And actually, you can see what data was used to produce these responses to what we call citations. And citations are these really reliable systems where large language models cite what they are, like how they arrive at that answer or conclusion. So we'll tell you like exactly the spec number 263213 for engine generators is actually the spec number that fed this idea, to the LLM. So this lets you configure this piece. Back to configuration. Again, the instructions are really simple. So if I ask a question, like tell me more about those, what did we talk about? Custom air handling units is just as an example. You see the responses come in, but they're not super well formatted, or they're not formatted in the way that I want. You see like they're very different than the things we were showing before. And that's happening because this AI is prompted to just find documents, right? And is structuring the response in this way: work included, acceptable manufacturers. And it's doing all the good stuff, like it's citing the answers. So like I can click through the citations and see the citation marks. But it's really not like really pretty or useful, I would say, for like a field person that may be asking this question. I mean, this is quite useful. And I guess, the actual pages of the spec are useful. But there's no emojis and this and that, and like there's all the other stuff that people like. So instead of going down the path where I am going to type the system instructions and the custom instructions and the formatting instructions, what we're going to do is we're going to ask the AI, please write me a system prompt and a custom prompt for formatting, describing how a construction actually instructing an AI agent to respond about submittals and specs. Make sure to instruct, make sure the format is written in Markdown and is detailed with sections and sections for the specs versus the submittals, and use the latest information. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm getting the AI to create the AI. I'm actually not going to be the one like typing this stuff because it's going to be a lot to type. And if I were to instruct for every single thing here, it would take forever. So, instead, the way that we do this and the way that you can do it and customize is ask the AI to actually write it. And then you can iterate on this a lot. So it's going to come up with like a really good structure for responding about this. And it's going to write this in Markdown, which is this language where you can templatize responses. So you see how far this is going. It's going into like how to think about submittals, what fields to use, how to write this, how to write that, how to think about specifications, and so on. I like this, but like, hey, let's make this more user friendly. and edit so that the user will receive a report-like response with emojis where appropriate. Make sure to call out the spec sections each time. So as we iterate on this prompt, what I'll do is I'll copy and paste this stuff here. So your specialized AI assistant for construction, you're gonna function as this thing, and these are your priorities. I literally copy and paste in the system instructions. So that's copied here. I'm giving key directives, prioritization, proactivity, citations, naming conventions, error handling. These are pretty decent. Then formatting requirements. Actually, I'm going to take the key directives over here, and we'll bring the key directives into, actually, the next one might be better here. We'll bring this into the custom instructions for formatting. So this part here will go here. And by the way, you can like instruct this like to your heart's content in terms of how you want it. Like you see like the actual markdown is retained, and like you could say actually this is like the title. And by doing this, you're actually saying like, templatize the title for this. This is the latest information. This is other relevant submittals, specifications, and how to think about that. And this looks pretty good. Um, and I can do title of the submittal or spec. And I'll label this formatting instructions. So you can see how far this can go. Basically, as you build this out, you will get a really good system prompt and a really good custom prompt that works exactly with your data in exactly the ways that your business works and thinks. So if, for example, your business uses SOPs, you may actually want to call out, like use the SOPs in this particular way. So now if I ask a question, give me some details on the air handling units and their locations. Now that this is used as an instruction to create that response. And you can see here as I'm going to go around to look at what else is already configured. The responses are going to be structured in that way that we wrote. But you can see how far this is going to go. I'm going to show you the actual instructions for the agent we have deployed at MJ Harris, which writes in this particular way and instructs in this way. It has a very detailed set of core principles around how to be proactive and how to use PDFs, how to use the context, how to verify facts, which is really important. And what happens is we specify not only the structure of the response, but the reasoning instruction around how to write the table or how to keep the information together in a certain way. And what happens is that influences how the agent thinks and processes the information over here, and which tools the agent is going to use to structure its report and information. So these things work together in the background, and you get these really good answers that are well structured and well cited that you can use for your projects. So I'll pause here. This was a lot. Paul, any questions or thoughts on what you can or cannot do?
Uh,
Um,
I mean, the whole thing about this is you don't have to be an analytics expert. You don't have to like be super Power BI or whatever. I'm not. I don't do any of that. But the fact that you can get the AI to make the instructions for you, and then tweak it, and then Datagrid's there to support you anyway, to make it successful is extremely impactful. And the thing about this is we're able to build these agents out, and they're able to help our jobs, and we get these workflows down. And then when you have the base models improved, like Gemini 2.5 came out, and then automatically you get more features and more functionality overnight, as opposed to waiting on a solely SaaS-based product to have all their developers add a feature 6 months later, you get it. This is something that you get the infrastructure built out, and then you automatically have an improvement overnight. And it's something that you don't even do, or Datagrid doesn't even do. It's just the base model. But then when you add on the stuff that you can do, just like he showed with the ease of building out those agents instructions to where you're honestly not even building it out, it's doing it and then you're guiding it. And then you're able to pile that on top of support from Datagrid.
Yeah,
The speed to deployment is just it's incredible. And it's been yeah, it's just been great. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and I think, you save these things as templates later on. So, in the template library here, you make this your own template on your own company. You save it so that it goes into the library so that anybody in the team that is going to create an agent for their new project they're deploying, they go in here and it's all of your templates that are already built out with all the settings and configuration. And you can control all these agents across all of your teams so that they don't diverge and everybody kind of works in the same way eventually.
yeah,
Which is really what we all want, right? We want more scale, and then people need to be able to work in a similar way. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and
And I
we'll
mean, so
take.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead. There's a few questions here, but I want to make sure. Yeah, go ahead. I'll read the question and then see how to answer.
Okay. Um, but yeah, just kind of wrapping up with some of the agents. So talking about the field agent, right, for text. Text to the field is getting information, uh, common information that'll be used in the field. The scheduling agent. So there's a couple ways you can do that. Connect directly into P6. Right now we use our XER export and bringing that into DataGrid, and then we're analyzing all the different tasks. And you can imagine you sitting in a scheduling meeting, you got thousands of tasks. The ability to be able to analyze that schedule in 5 seconds and tell you your risk early on, and then have those types of things ready for that scheduling meeting, it just adds value, right? It makes us more productive with our time in that meeting. Um, you talked about the deep search and how we use that to find things which happen all day long as far as the questions about where something is or how something's changed. And then also working on different things like OAC packet agent. A lot of folks on the phone, you probably spend a lot of time putting together OAC meetings packets. And why don't you have an agent and do that type of stuff? Kind of going back to the whole thing of let's use our time because we're all smart and expert builders. Let's use it the best way we can and let our agents assist us in doing some of that search and find and some of the things that really probably need to be somewhat automated. So those are just a few things that we are doing, some of the things that are in development. And I can say over 20 years of being in technology for GCs, this is probably the most excited I've been. And I'm all about them and VDC and scanning and all the other cool things that are out there, but I've never seen something be able to add as much value this quickly of anything I've ever used on a project. So it's exciting times, and I'm glad that there's companies out there like DataGrid that are here to support us and make it easy to get into and not so complex and a lot of hurdles that you have to jump over. So it's been very accessible, right? The AI journey with this.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
And I think like it's interesting, like I'm showing you a little bit of like this configuration thing, but I think it's important for people to know because AI is going to be part of our daily lives. So it's really important to know how this stuff is working, like instructions around an agent, like how to think, how to reason. You want to have some access to know what that is. Um, so, this is a great example here. This agent, I built the instructions for it. And I actually went as deep as telling it to like how to think about manpower logs, how to write this table here, how to write the daily report title, the weather. Like I actually asked it like the weather on that day, and it literally places the weather for the day in the report exactly how I want it. Like
yeah,
imagine my company cared about something else that's not the weather. I can easily go and add it because I can just edit that document. And again, like this is just a great example where the AI is able to like pull that information together and like break it down with like all the associated documents. There was a question about accuracy. So there's two things we do. One is evals, evaluations. We run evals against the toughest evals out there, and we basically report like our trend on that to our customers. And the other way is just understanding citations. Citation is a really important piece where, if you see that the trust that people have in AI increases dramatically when they see information being cited. That's one thing we notice in our use case. So like if you see this report, this is a single page report. Often there are going to be reports with like hundreds of pages. Sometimes these logs are going to come in through a SQL query. So just citing everything and making sure people have access to that so that they can trust it. And the
Yeah.
second, you can maybe talk about citations. How does it affect? How do you feel
Yeah.
about?
I mean, the whole industry is about check and verify, right? So if they're just going to give you an answer and it doesn't show you where it came from, it's going to be tough to trust it. So that's just something that's, it's a default. So that it's going to show you that citation, show you where it's coming from, even on the scheduling agent, to be able to see the task that it's actually referencing. It'll pull that task in and show you that. But also on the deep search and the documents, being able to pull up the submittal, actually pull the thing that it's talking about, and not just give you. I mean, AI in general, people are worried about giving you wrong information, right? I think that's probably from the Chat GPT world and that kind of stuff. And this is different, and it's giving you a reference for that answer too, which is extremely important, right? We can't have wrong info when we're trying to build stuff. So
Yeah,
good.
it's awesome. Makes sense. And so, in the scope checker, I just want to talk about this. Like scope checking is really interesting. One thing that you can do with these, I talked about citing, to specifying these tables. This table here, requirements, spec, submittal, complies, comments, link PDF. Like this actual thing, when I asked it to review the air handling unit warranty, it went on and he said, okay, this is the project, this is the spec requirements, these are the specification sections, and these are the submittals against this thing, and this is how it's performing. The actual report there for that table, I think is really relevant to say, like, I actually went through the lengths of like asking the AI to build this for me and like, hey, write in Markdown for me as a table to like report on the specs. And he created this thing here, which I just copy and pasted. Literally, I just plugged in here and I asked it to do it this way. But just so you know, like, the reason why it has requirement and specifications is because like literally we told it so. So it's really
Mhm.
important to know that AI is actually following your instructions. Because if AI can't follow your instructions, then like we lose control. So it's really an important part of it to be able to decide like how I want it to work because each company works differently anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so there was a question about accuracy. I talked about evals. And there's a question about the data intake and processing. I just want to walk us through that here. There's two things the AI can do. One is the AI can effectively work on your projects directly. So if I ask this thing to list the RFIs in my project, when we're talking about like the AI doing work for us, like we can actually in real time query this data and list the accessible projects and have the AI actually do, which project do you want me to respond? It's like, yeah, two. And I can go back and forth with AI. So what's happening here is something called actions. So our AI has the ability to process actions and these actions you see is hooked up here for Procore. You can hook up actions for FieldWire, ACC, Ignite, whatever system you want, and that we support. And these actions are bidirectional. So if you ask the AI to do something like list the RFIs or create a report or like read the RFIs and then push it to Ignite, these workflows are all possible through these actions. So you enable the action and you choose the user credentials or the agent credentials. This makes the action tied to that user so that when it creates an RFI for me, it is actually writing it as me, not just some random AI. And you can see here some examples of like actually writing RFIs and going through the motion here. When I asked the AI to create an RFI, it popped a review process so that before I actually submit the RFI, it allows me to review the thing and then I can do the work here. So this is one part of like connecting data, which was one of the questions. The other part is knowledge. Knowledge management is done through this tab here called knowledge within the agent. So when we give access to the AI to a specific data set, these data sets are created by going through this process here to connect the application. So just as an example, if we do Procore and I select it and then log in into Procore, I'll give my login instructions and go through the sign up process, which is going to require me to find my password. Uh, thanks for Core for all the safety. Um, I just logged in half an hour ago, but I respect the need. Um,
They knew this was happening.
they knew this was happening. Let's log out. Yeah.
Sabotage.
So once you log in, so I'm part of a couple companies in Procore. So, as this thing goes through here, I'm going to just pause the video to select the company. Um, and I'll select Paul's company as an example. So once I select the company that I'm working with, then I can choose the project and I choose the specific project that I want to bring the data in. So this is the project we're demoing and talking about, and I can choose the data. So again, like this can go like do not click all. There's literally 204 endpoints that we're going to pull data from, which means the entire Procore instance. And it's not a bad thing if you want to do reporting, if you want to do other tasks. It's really cool, but it's going to consume all your credits because this is a credit-based system. So if you want to do just submittals, just select the show endpoint. If you're gonna do specs, I generally do like, okay, I want to work with all the specs and I want to work with all the submittals information. I mean, just submittal show is fine. And then maybe I want to work with all the RFIs um, and potential change orders as an example. So as I do this, and actually let me just remove some of the ones that may be the more difficult ones here, just to show this live. Um, and then as you do this, you click start, and literally what happens is an AI takes from here. So the AI will basically look at the data that's coming in and organize this into a data warehouse, a knowledge store, and a graph database, and put it all together. So in the background, this may take 2 hours. You will see it in real time updating. So like you see here, like we started getting some specification sets. We got 30 rows for that. The specification shows probably coming in another 30 rows. And as we do this, the AI will be organizing this. So it actually like removed some columns and organized the stuff and is doing this in the background. We get an email when the data is finished syncing. And you can come in here and augment this if it's needed or modify like position. We never use like maybe I want to remove that column. So you can actually edit this. So you limit what the AI can see and control the deployment of your solution in that way. You can also augment the data with AI, which is a whole other webinar that I won't cover now. There was a question about the observability platform. Yeah, we run federal projects in and other things, so we run our own cluster for observability with an open source observability solution right now. But that's like FedRAMP SOC 2 requirements. Would it be possible to have an agent that can search through an entire knowledge library? Like an archive library. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly like what this deep search is doing. It's actually searching through, like tell me all the submittals and specs you can see. It's going through 22 gigabytes of PDF and just responding, of course, up to a limit. It's not going to literally tell me every submittal, although if you turn on analytics, you would like actually do that. Um, and so, yeah, this is a deep search agent. It will be, going through all your submittals and writing this out, and you know, yeah, you can. It's literally doing exactly that. It's going through the entire knowledge library. CMIC connection. Yeah, we do have a connection. We're partners with CMIC. So within the connections here, a little bit more detailed of a setup. So please reach out to us. But yeah, CMIC is available. It's one of our partners, and yeah, we love CMIC. The other question. See if any other questions pop up. Any other questions? Any other thoughts, Paul, as well, that you want to share?
No, I think I've cut. Does anybody have any questions for me? Most of these look like questions for data grid questions.
Yeah, the question.
Architectural. Yeah, go
The
ahead.
question about PDF, so yeah, he's absolutely looking at PDFs. He's looking at all the drawings and all the contents within PDFs and doing extractions on those things and processing them. Like in fact, like every time like he looks at something, he describes it for itself and for the users. So yeah, it's working, yeah, with the drawings directly.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, like it's using tools to do that. So it actually has
Hmm.
a tool for PDF processing, it has tools for semantic retrieval and attachment and memory and all these other things.
Yeah. And some people have told me like, oh, well, Chat GPT, wouldn't this do this? Well, there's going to be limits to that, and you're going to be dumping in just a few documents at a time. And whereas this is thousands and thousands of documents that's analyzing and it's updating and keeping current. And in addition, there's different things in here where you can run automations and have stuff act on your behalf, in the background, and then give you information when you come in the next day. So there's a lot of functionality that goes way, way beyond anything that commonly that we would think of in terms of what AI is just a few couple of years ago, right? So it's definitely a tool made for what we need to do every day.
Yeah. And I mean, a good example of that would be like this question here on AHU dimensions. I mean, we like to ask this question just as an example, but these dimensions are all written in this actual drawing. So there's no way for the AI to get to this if it doesn't process the actual stuff that's in here.
Yeah.
And yep,
Oh, I have a question. Here we go.
there you go.
Uh, so the Site Super Agent via phone. How comfortable were you with this technology? I can imagine at the first may be hesitant when contractors take agents' word as gospel. You may have mistakes on the site. Um, So with deploying a site agent, that's going to be for our guys, and we have a specific field agent just for them. Now, we've started to talk about trade field deployment and really kind of roll that out. But the way that would work is you would have just a trade field agent that would have limited knowledge, uh, and then there would be training that goes along with that. So really, I would say as a general contractor, we start with the field guys first, and it may branch out on the team if that's something we see necessary. And you're kind of asking, how do you ensure contractors don't abuse, and how do you become comfortable with the tool being used? Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with our own guys, right? And finding information and understanding what it is. And I mean, if you're going to kind of open that up to other companies, then you have to kind of have that conversation and decide how you want to do that. But the thing about it having the agent based directory where you can do that, you have the option of doing that, and then limiting what they would see. Is that going to answer your question, Nick? Feel free to respond back on that. Kayvon's got something. What's up, Kayvon? Can you create an agent that checks the project specs versus the drawings and reports discrepancies? I'll let Thiago talk about that.
Yeah, that's what the scope checker does. Essentially, it looks at the drawings and it looks at the requirements, it looks at the compliance, and it makes this full little report here. It pulls the drawings and it pulls the submittals separately, and then it does the comparison between the two and produces this analysis. It does it page by page, of course, and it gives you a little report at the end here. This is fully customizable.
Hmm.
You can look at this as um, as a basis to kind of build upon.
Yeah. It looks like, can you describe how the text phone number works? Is that on Datagrid side or is it some other company? No, it's Datagrid. So you just within the agent, you go in. I don't know. I may be answering stuff you need to be answering, but
No, go ahead, go ahead.
within the agent, right? You want to do mobile use, you just go over to the right hand side and you click it and you say mobile, and then it gives you like a little code that you can use, and it'll text you and ask you to text back the code, and then you say okay, or you can do like a little QR. You could print it out and laminate it, and people could scan the QR and get access that way. And so like on my text agent, I just save that number as a contact, and it'll be like the project name, and it'll say field agent AI. And got a question, just text field agent like you're texting a buddy, right? And then it sends you back the stuff. But not only sends you back the answer, it sends you back the actual thing where it got the answer from. Um, so hopefully that answers your question there. All right. Kayvon's a BIM dude. He has a BIM question.
Can you coordinate BIM models? Yeah, you can import BIM data. We are not supporting 3D geometry, but all the metadata for the BIM models is accessible. You can use it with ACC connector, and it's yeah, straightforward to get the data in, I would say. In the Autodesk Construction Cloud connector over here, once you do that, you will see the ability to you'll see the ability to select files. So just make sure, like after you do your login, and Autodesk also logged me out. This is interesting. Everybody's logging me out today. Oh, it's because I'm in the desktop tool. That's why. Um, all right.
There's a question about security on here from Rafael Gomez. Did we answer that one already? That's a big one for me. So the thing about security, data, and this is one of the reasons I chose Datagrid is, so Raphael's asking, how is our data security handled as far as training is concerned? Is our data used to enhance agents across the board, or is our data siloed? So Thiago can give a more detailed answer, but I can give the short version. Um, to start it off with, the answer is no. And we want to make sure that your data is your data and it's not training models to help your competitors, right? Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's no training on the data. There's no polling. The only access to the data is to the agents and to you. And if you choose to do evals, the evals are stored. The data, the access to the data for evals stops once you revoke our API key. It's all yours. We don't have access to the data. Production environment is completely separate from development. No developers have access to the data, and you can be sure that we will not ever train on the data. It's too risky. It's your data, it's not ours, and I don't think it's going to provide any benefits to compare to large language models. And we had that debate years ago. I think 2 years ago, everybody's like, now we need small language models. Let's make one for law. And are those models now? Like nowhere. The reality is ChatGPT and Gemini and all these model trainers, they can gather more intelligence and better reasoning across the data sets that they have than we could ever train a model for a specific thing. So what happened with all the law models is that nobody uses them, and ChatGPT is way better now. We don't use ChatGPT, just to be clear. We're using a model hosted in GCP and Gemini. You can choose to use ChatGPT, but by default, we keep all the data and the training and all the stuff that happens in your isolated environment. And it is all the learnings are within the agents. If you delete the agents delete the learnings.
Hmm.
Long answer, but yes, we don't do
Yeah,
that. And
don't do it.
yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't put data in the
Anybody
and
tells you that it's okay, don't believe them. Don't
yeah.
do
Well,
it.
if it was so easy, like then Google will be training in all their data center designs, and they aren't. And there's a
Yeah,
reason. Um, so you have these big guys building all these data centers, like they are not training on their construction data.
yeah.
I mean, maybe a little bit. Yeah, you can select the files here, and like you can select Revit as a source of file and
Mm,
the specific thing that's going to come in. This is a little bit untested ground, just to be clear. Like you are not going to get geometry working. We didn't find a great way to get geometry to be useful in this environment, but all the metadata will come in for the BIM models. And again, the agent has an analytical capability for querying. So whenever this tool called data analysis is on, the agent will do analysis tasks on the data, such as this thing here.
hmm. Couple other questions. Security. I don't know if we covered that one already. Talk
Yeah, I
to
think
type two, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
SOC 2 Type 2, yeah, we're getting through more security qualifications, certifications. It's been 3 years doing SOC 2.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Uh,
and
the, the
we're actually over time.
yeah.
Where where tools made where tools made with agents. Um, AI tools, is that the
Hmm.
question? If the tools here were made with agents, not necessarily. Like depending on the tool, like for example, yeah, not necessarily. Some of the tools, like for example, our web browsing agent, where you say like, hey, go to datagrid.com and figure out all their connectors. If the agent needs to use a certain tool, it may be a custom piece of code that's entirely designed to do that task. So this case here, the agent is going to open a web browser and it's going to browse the internet, and it's going to do it on its own autonomously. So this tool is like clearly agentic in its way, if that was the question.
Yeah. credits on average consumed daily. I mean, that's I've heard the credit question before, and I can tell you in some very big jobs it doesn't use a whole lot. So it's is that the best way to answer that? I don't know, Tiago, do you have any other
Yeah.
answers to that?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on like what you're trying to do. Our credit consumption is designed so that we can size it for the use case and it scales really well. You start off with, the basic plan that we have, the base plans we have support the pro types of projects that Bo has, and then at scale it becomes much, much, much cheaper,
Hmm.
depending on, how far you go. And you have a full reporting capability on credit usage. So like these questions we're asking here about the dimensions and whatnot, we can actually go and take a look. It's like 0.22 cents, 0.22 credits, and each credit is 5 cents. So it's very cheap to get an answer to a question.
Yeah,
And you can monitor the usage and how people are using it in this way.
yeah, yeah. And it makes it to where, like I said, anybody can get into AI and use it, and you just track it with the credits. And it's I think it's a great thing. I wish all software was like that, honestly. Um, I think they had an architecture question here. I mean, my opinion is from working for an architect, you have so many documents that you're developing over so long, and then they're evolving all the way from conceptual all the way to 100% CDs. You got so many people involved in this. You have teams of people working on this stuff for like a year, right? Designing things. And so being able to track those documents, track the variations between them, and then maybe also use your design, previous designs to assist in this, right? And sort of train your agent. Maybe there's things that it can go back and reference from other documents. If I was an architect, that's what I would do. But I just made that up. So, I mean, I think that's what would be a good use case. Jason, I mean, do you have any kind of comments on that? I'm looking at Jason's question right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a new ground for architecture too. I mean, we have a few
Yeah.
architecture implementations that are like really all about, finding a way to reuse past project to
Hmm.
execute the work faster because architects charge for time and you want to continue to use the time, but you may want to use the time a little bit better. So it's a new ground
Yeah.
with AI. I'm scared. I'm not sure architecture as a profession or a business is not ready for AI. I actually think the opposite. I think it's completely ready for that. Even compared to some other industries, I think architecture has taken too long to adopt AI at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually a more controlled environment than construction, but technically you're doing kind of the same thing. You're developing all the building on paper before we go out there and develop it in the field, but it's all controlled. You have set dates, you know kind of how this design is going to evolve. So it seems almost like a better environment for agentic AI to have these standards and know this is how this first project's going to go. Here's how my next one's going to go, and it could just continue to develop and improve. So there's tremendous, I guess, potential for the architecture and engineering industry.
Choose AI. I agree.
Yep.
We're over time. Thanks. There's some document question, lots of the same document QAQC problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. QAQC is huge. Just being able to use an AI to like comb through this stuff is just so valuable.
Yeah.
It's ready. I mean, like we could build that QAQC agent like in the next hour here.
We
So,
need to have another webinar, architect AI for architecture, right?
all right.
Got to
Thanks,
get an
everyone.
architect on.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. This was awesome. And you get the recording, and we'll also send a couple links to the website where we're going to have the prompts posted that you can copy and paste and launch your AI agents. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Paul. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.